Welcome to the September edition of Northeast Journal. I'm your host, Joe Cullen. Coming up in the next half hour, we'll chat with a Vadnais Heights hockey player who has a unique Olympic story. We'll get an update on renovations at White Bear Township's historic Heritage Hall, and we'll learn how an Eagle Scout is restoring a piece of history in Birchwood. All that and more is straight ahead on Northeast Journal. Hello everyone, and welcome to the September edition of Northeast Journal. I'm your host, Joe Cullen. Every month on Northeast Journal, we give you an inside look at the people and places that make up the northeast section of the Twin Cities. For decades, a 200-pound cast iron bell sat untouched in the basement of Birchwood Village Hall. That is, until a soon-to-be Eagle Scout decided to do something about it. Producer Jeff Melcock brings us some sights and sounds from this exciting Eagle Scout project to build a bell tower in front of Birchwood Village Hall. Speaking of restoration projects, last month we showed you some work being done at the historic Heritage Hall in White Bear Township. Here's more on that project, including a look at how a group of students are using tools of decades past to do the work.
How often will you ever have a chance to work with a hand plane from 1790? I mean, we're working with tools that were around when George Washington was around, and to me that's incredible. Also, working on this building is incredible. Cass Gilbert, I believe, was the architect who built this. He also designed the Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C., and I believe the Minnesota State Capitol, so kind of a well-known architect, and to be able to work on one of his first structures is really incredible and gratifying. We're used to, Makita skill saw and that kind of stuff, so to actually have to literally push your way through the entire board and kind of fine-tune yourself and, not have a fence to follow, it's all kind of free form, and it's very much a feel thing. It took a little bit of adjustment to get to that, but I think everybody picked it up pretty quickly.
It's time for a short break. When we come back, we'll chat with Marissa Brandt, an Olympic hockey player from Vadnais Heights.
Heroes come from small towns.
Our heroes from across the upper Midwest are coming home from wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Only now, some have a new battle to fight, unemployment. Hello, I'm Rocky Lynn, co-founder of Tribute to the Troops.
I'm Sergeant Dejan Farrell.
And I'm Captain Ron Jarvie. A survey of our troops serving overseas found 25% say employment is a major concern for them as they come home.
Right now, the unemployment rate for today's veteran is 12%. That's twice the average of others living here in the heartland.
These service members learn quickly. They have experience with advanced technology and demonstrate teamwork, discipline, and leadership under difficult circumstances.
This year, Tribute to the Troops, the Armed Forces, and the Upper Midwest Emmy Chapter are asking you to hire our today's veterans. Employers, you've seen what these veterans have done for their country. Think what they can do for your business.
To hire today's veteran, visit positivelyminnesota.com/veterans.
Heroes come from small towns.
Extra DWI enforcement is now being served on Minnesota roads. Don't be what you drink.
It's the most natural thing for me to dance, but I was tripping and I was falling and didn't even know what multiple sclerosis was.
When I perform, I really love connecting with people. It's definitely cool to be able to give someone an experience through virtual reality.
Oh my God. I dream sometimes and I see that.
And I'm now joined by Marissa Brandt, who played in the recent Winter Olympic Games in South Korea as part of the unified Korean team. And Marissa, I want to thank you so much for joining me today on Northeast Journal.
Thank you for having me.
And our viewers are probably familiar with you. We've shown them footage of the big ceremony they had several months ago to honor you and your sister. And then your sister, Hannah Brandt, came in here, I think in April. So we were excited to have you have your chance. We figured you guys have such unique stories, it might be easier to break them up than to try to interview you both at the same time. Plus you guys had such busy traveling schedules too.
Yep.
So well, first off, just tell us a little bit about yourself. I understand you grew up here in Vadnais Heights.
Yep, grew up in Vadnais Heights. I was adopted at 4 months old from South Korea, so grew up here. My sister and I did everything growing up together, every sport together, and we eventually just loved hockey, so we stuck with that. Went our separate ways when I came to college, so I went to Gustavus Adolphus College in St. Peter. Yeah, that's kind of my growing up. But.
So did you know, I know your sister, when she was here, mentioned how, even as a little kid, she kind of had some Olympic aspirations. Did you have that too, or did you kind of see maybe just hopefully playing through college, or what were kind of your hopes and dreams when it came to hockey?
Yeah, honestly, I never dreamt of going to the Olympics. That was always kind of her thing, and I was very proud of her for wanting to do that. But for me, it was mainly just to be able to play hockey in college. It was really fun for me to do, and I knew I probably wouldn't get past that level, so I just wanted to have fun and play a good 4 years at school. So when the Team Korea opportunity came, I couldn't say no. So.
And how did that come about? Was this something, had you reached out to them, or were they aware of you for a while? How did that all come together?
It was really random. I got a phone call my senior year of college, and I remember I was studying for finals, and this woman called, and she was Team Korea's goalie coach, but she actually coached a team that my college played frequently. So she knew who I was, found out I was Korean, and then called and said, would you want to go to Korea for a tryout? And I said yes. 3 weeks later, I'm on a plane to Korea. So back to a country I really knew nothing about. I don't speak the language, don't know anybody there. So I said yes right away, but when it came down to it, I was pretty scared to go. So.
And how was that experience? Like you say, you obviously, have some things in common, I'm sure, with your teammates, but at the same time, there's the language barrier and cultural barriers. Did you find that you were able to kind of bond with them fairly quickly? Or?
Yeah, I would say fairly quick. I mean, when I first got there, I was terrified, and I kind of thought to myself, how am I going to make it here? The names were different. The language barrier was huge. I kind of always felt excluded because I didn't know what was going on ever. So after a couple days, I mean, the girls warmed up to me and I warmed up to them, and they were super welcoming, just wanted to help me with anything I needed. So they made the transition really easy, and yeah, we were quick friends after that.
And how long did it take before you knew that you had made the team?
That's a good question. There was no definite meeting and then them saying you're on the team. I just kept being invited back to different training camps and tournaments. So we just got closer and closer to the Olympic period, and yeah, I just was kind of always there. So it was always just in the back of my mind. They always talked about the Olympics, so I just kind of knew at that point that I was going to be on the team.
I'm sure even, obviously it's great it happened, but even if it hadn't, the fact that you had the chance and, getting some, I'm sure, cool trips out of it, but I'm sure it was exciting once you knew that you'd be in the Olympics, especially since your sister Hannah was competing, and I know you guys got quite a bit of attention when they try to do these, personal stories throughout the Olympics because of the unique situation that your sister's yet playing for different countries and you're playing for the host country, and also the fact that it was also, a unified team with North and South Korea, knowing that there's been difficult relations all these years. So It seemed like there was a whole lot going on for your family during that period.
Yeah, it was all these just crazy factors, and I mean, we never could have dreamt this at all together. The fact that I was in the Olympics, my sister was there too, it was in my birth country, so my parents were able to go, and the whole experience was just very special, and I mean, something we never could have even dreamt of. It was crazy.
So, was it, emotional for you, even though you, obviously, like you said, you at the time didn't really know anybody there, you grew up here in America, but I imagine at the same time, it had to be an emotional experience for you and probably for your parents and Hannah as well.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, especially for myself, growing up, I was really shy about being Korean, and I never really wanted to tap into that side of myself. I always knew I was adopted, and I obviously looked different than my sister and my parents, but our parents would try and send us to Korean culture camp, and I didn't like it at all just because I was so uncomfortable with being Korean and feeling different. So really the experience for me has been truly life-changing, and I mean, I'm just grateful that it all happened, and for my family also to experience the culture was awesome.
Now, I imagine, I remember reading some articles about it. It was, I'm sure unique for your parents too, even though I don't, you guys never played against each other in the Olympic Games, but still, it's rare, I'm sure, for parents to be rooting for two different countries. So I'm sure that was kind of a unique experience for your family as well.
Yeah, they were very busy. We played every other day, so one night they'd be at my game, the next at Hannah's, and so forth. So we just joked that the colors are the same, red, white, and blue, so my mom could always, dress that way, or one would have one jersey on, the other with the other jersey on. So they made it work, and it was really fun.
I understand too, you were going by your Korean name on the jersey as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you made the decision to do that?
Yeah, so I had to get my Korean citizenship in order to play on the team. So when it came down to it, I had to choose whether I wanted my Korean name or Brandt on the back of my jersey. And ultimately, I chose my Korean name just because growing up, that was the one thing I knew about myself that tied me to Korea. Like, I just knew my name. So I thought it was important to represent myself in that way, and that this was my tie to Korea, and yeah, I don't know.
And how were you, I don't know if received is the right word, but how did you find you were treated over there in terms of, being someone who obviously, is originally from there, but yet you're American, don't speak language, how do you feel, not even just your teammates, but, did you find people were interested in you over there, even just the residents or fans attending the games?
Yeah, I think interested is a good word. It's funny because I look Korean, and I remember there was this one time I was in the subway station just waiting for the subway to come, and this older lady came up to me, started speaking in Korean. I think she didn't know where to go. And I just look at her, I'm sorry, I only speak English. And she had the most confused look on her face, because I'm sure I look like I speak Korean, but I don't. And I felt bad I couldn't help her, but I'm sure people were very confused with my voice and accent and whatever. So yeah, interested is a good word.
And not that picking up any new language is easy, but from what I understand, Korean's not an easy one to just take a crash course for a couple weeks and suddenly you're carrying on lots of conversations.
Yeah, pretty difficult language. The girls taught me a little bit here and there, and I would teach them English. So it was a fun little trade-off we had going on, but it's definitely a difficult language. Yeah.
Now I understand, because of you being, I believe, the only one that could speak English on the team, you served as kind of a spokesman of sorts, as you have the media, especially Western media that's over there covering the games, that a lot of people were obviously interested in this team because of the unified aspect. So I imagine you were kind of handling a lot of interview requests over there.
Yeah, I mean, we'd get requests here and there, and it was myself, and there were 5 other imports, they call us, people from the States or Canada. So for the English speakers, we would always get, requests for interviews and stuff like that. But yeah.
And did you notice, was there any tension, or did the players that are from the North and South, did they seemingly get along fine all the time? I'm sure that was an adjustment process as much as it was for you. They've obviously grown up in a unique situation as well.
Yeah, that whole situation was kind of a whirlwind of all sorts. I mean, 3 weeks before the Olympics happened, we were told that we were going to get not 2 or 3, but 12 new teammates from North Korea. So I think for any team to hear that, it's a little uneasy at first, and we were kind of nervous about the dynamic of our team and how they would fit in with us. So they came, the 12 new girls came, and after probably 2 days, it was like they were meant to be with us. We quickly became family, and it was really interesting playing with the North Koreans. They're all super friendly, and just willing to learn and just wanted to be there. So I'm thankful that they came on our team, and I really wouldn't change anything about that.
And I know a lot of my questions have been more just about, the how it was for you, and having your sister over there and all those things. But at the same time, how was it just, regardless of what country you're playing for, just very few of us are going to ever experience competing in a sport at that level. How was that for you? Because obviously, you've played on some big stages before for high school, college, and things like that. But, what was kind of going through your mind, especially those first, initial games that you were playing in?
Oh, I don't even know. I mean, it was crazy that I was at the Olympics, but to have my sister there and to be in Korea, like I mentioned before, just all these little things added up to one perfect setting for myself and my family. I mean, walking out in opening ceremony was surreal. I mean, I feel like I blacked out for a second. It was just is this really happening right now? And looking out in the crowd, and it's just packed, and you're just waving, you're with your country, and going out before our first game, I was so nervous. I mean, every one of our games was sold out, which was crazy. So you just play hard and try and make your country proud. And it's bigger than yourself. It's bigger than even just a hockey game for us. So it was incredible.
Yeah, and then I imagine the feelings you had later on watching your sister, especially in that gold medal game. I imagine that, as nervous as you are, obviously playing in your own, at least you have some control because you're out there playing, but to see her in then such a tight game too, I imagine that a lot of emotions going through that too.
Yes, I was so stressed. It was going into a shootout. I couldn't believe that, first of all, a shootout for a gold medal seemed silly to me, but that's what was happening, and I was on the edge of my seat just sweating, hoping they would win, and their goalie made the last save, and the crowd went wild, and I couldn't have been more proud, so it was awesome.
And once the games were over, was there some relief, or is it kind of a letdown? Because I'm sure obviously there's such a huge build-up to it, and then suddenly, fairly quickly it's over, after a couple of weeks.
That's a good question. I mean, I think after the games were over, I was sad just because the North Koreans had to leave us, so that was kind of a big transition, honestly, because they felt like family for the couple months we were together. So I think that was the saddest part about the Olympics being over. But for my team, we had the World Championships to look forward to in April, so I had to go right back into training, and we had something else to look forward to, which was kind of nice because we could end on something a little more light, have some fun, and mixed emotions, I guess.
And then once you came back here, I know you and your sister were kind of always going in opposite directions. Even they had a special event here, I believe in March, to honor the two of you in Vadnais Heights. And I know it was hard for them to find one date where there was, and you guys were so generous because you only had such a little period of time, your whole family, and to be willing to spend it and be honored. And a lot of the community came out, but it seemed like both you and your sister were really busy doing a lot of traveling and speaking and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things you've been doing since the games?
Yeah, I guess when I first got home in May, we've been traveling around with a nonprofit foundation, the Mixed Roots Foundation. They help support adopted and foster care youth. So we've done a couple baseball games with them, throwing out the first pitch in LA, San Francisco, and then the Minnesota Twins game. So we've been around with them and just some other events elsewhere. So it's been kind of crazy being home. I kind of thought everything would die down after I came back to Minnesota, but we've been busy, but it's been a good kind of busy, so can't complain at all.
I imagine it must be a neat feeling, as I mentioned, at that event you were at, and even I know you and your sister were the grand marshals of the Vadnais Heights Heritage Days Parade. You've kind of always got this pack of young kids in their White Bear jerseys following you guys around, and I know probably doesn't seem all that long ago that was you guys, so I really could see the way they were looking up to you guys. I imagine that must be special for you and Hannah.
Definitely. I mean, that's everything to us. We hope to be role models for the young girls who aspire to be in the Olympics or just to dream big, play hockey in college. I mean, that was us, and we had people to look up to, and that's, kind of where we got today. So, I mean, now that the Olympics are over, we just try to be the role model for them and hope to inspire the young girls. So it's fun to have them kind of with us, and
Now, what do you hope the future holds? Are you still planning to be competing and playing in these next few years?
That is a good question. These days, I'm really just enjoying being home. We'll see what happens for me in hockey. If if I do plan to play again, it's a lot of time being away from home. So got married 2 years ago, and from then I've been gone. So I feel like I need to be home for a little bit and be a wife and not move. So we'll see what happens. I'm keeping it open. So I'd love to still do something with Team Korea and maybe help expand the program there for those girls. So we'll see.
And then are you, still in a lot of contact with some of your teammates?
Yeah, I am. We talk when we can. The time difference is big. But yeah, we just kind of catch up whenever, and I think life is good. And they've gotten a break now from hockey too, so they've just been going back to school and working and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been good.
And, are you still planning this, organization you're talking about that you've done some events with? Is that something you're going to be continuing working with?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I really like what they stand for, and both my sister and I are both involved, so it's fun to do things with her and kind of share our story, which is very interesting, and hope people can relate and somehow get something out of it. So yeah, definitely stay in touch with them.
And I did read a story as I was doing some additional prep for this interview that you were taking steps to, possibly find out more about your birth parents in South Korea. Is that something that's still ongoing?
Yeah, yes, it is. During the Olympic period, I tried to not think about that a whole lot. I just wanted to focus on hockey. So now being home, I've started the process of trying to find my birth mother. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully some good news, but yeah, we'll see.
I'm sure, like you said, it's probably nice right now to have a little downtime, to have some time with your family here. You guys have certainly been busy, and I'm sure your parents, probably need a little break from hockey for a while too.
Probably. Well, yeah, and then the Whitecap season is coming up too for my sister, so soon enough we'll be back at the rink every weekend, and yeah.
And I know, this is probably a question without a real easy answer. Every athlete gets asked this, but what kind of advice would you have going back again to those young kids? What kind of advice would you have? Not even necessarily even just to make the Olympics, but just to, get the most out of these, younger years as they're playing, to keep it in. I imagine you have to keep that enjoyment of the sport. Obviously, if you get burned out, you're not going to keep going even through college. So what would you say to, kind of keep them going along the path?
I mean, like you mentioned, I think it's important not to get burned out. But at the same time, someone told me it's this phrase, it's called TWIG. So it stands for take what is given. So I think any opportunity that they have or any camp, just say yes and just try it, and there's no harm in that. So even as you get older, I mean, for myself, just saying yes to going to Korea, it was take what is given, just do it and try it, and don't say no to any opportunity because you never know where it can lead you. So yeah.
That's great, and I'm sure, like you said, I mean, that would have been easy to think like, oh no, that's a crazy idea, or kind of I'm not, ready for that. Plus, I know you mentioned too your finals. You're sure we're busy and your head's in a million different places anyway. But to, take that opportunity and see what happens with it.
Exactly. Yep.
Perfect. All right. Well, anything else that you'd care to add that we haven't touched on?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Well, at least too that regardless of what happens for years to come, you can drive by the warming house and rink that have been named for you and your sister. And we showed some footage a little earlier in this program, but they did a little ceremony for you guys for that.
Yeah, very special. Yeah, we skated at that rink when we were growing up, so I can't believe it's named after us. I mean, that's unbelievable. So quite an honor.
Well, I imagine too, for these young kids we've been talking about, like just the fact that you are in Minnesota, obviously such a hotbed for hockey, that that alone is a good thing if you're in an area that people, I know there's other parts of the country where maybe they don't play year-round or they're not as passionate about it, but obviously, this whole Minnesota region, people go pretty crazy for hockey.
Definitely.
And what was it about hockey that first really drew you to it, as kids?
Honestly, my sister, she loved it. I mean, she would get on the ice with a stick anytime she could, and I started because of her. Like, I didn't want to do a sport without her. We started in figure skating, and I loved it because it was girly. I could dress up and all that, but she was such a tomboy. She didn't like it, so she quit. I did it by myself for a year, didn't like being alone, so I literally joined because of her and then fell in love with it. So I have to thank Hannah, I guess, for getting me into it.
Otherwise, we may have seen you in the Olympics figure skating.
Exactly,
So.
you never know.
Well, we certainly appreciate you spending so much time with us today and wish you the best luck in the future. And
Thank you.
Who knows, maybe we'll be talking to you and your sister again in a few years for another Olympic Games.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much. And that's all we have time for on this month's show. Thanks for tuning in, and join us again next month for another edition of Northeast Journal. We leave you this time with some footage from the recent Vadnais Heights Heritage Days Parade.
Kind of a hippie van following them too. Now we have the Academy for Sciences and Agriculture, AFSA. They're a public charter school for grades 5 through 12, engaging learners in academically rigorous, student-centered learning experiences and leadership opportunities within a science and agriculture context. They are located on Vadnais Boulevard, I believe, here in Vadnais Heights. If you're looking for more information, afsahighschool.com. That's all you need. Whoops. I'm throwing out some items. Suddenly, some boomeranged back towards me. Oh, I'm getting some honey from the ag school. It's a fun fact. A bee's sense of smell is 100 times more sensitive than humans. It's good to know. I always learn something at this parade. Now we have the White Bear Lake Youth Wrestling. They're a wrestling club located in White Bear Lake, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to teach kids wrestling, teamwork and determination, and to have fun. You may be surprised to learn, you would probably assume by my muscular build that I was once a wrestler. Surprisingly, I was not. But I know wrestling can be a very grueling sport, but with the dedication and perseverance, they can be some really amazing athletes.